Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau. Où est-ce que vous en êtes dans votre réflexion
Where are
par
you
rapport
in
aux
your
lois
thinking
sur les
regarding
mesures
the
d'urgence? Et comment ça
Emergency
fonctionnerait?
Act,
Est-ce que vous auriez besoin de
Emergency Measure
l'approbation des
Act?
provinces,
Would you need the
Parlement?
approval of
Et
the
est-ce que
provinces or
ces
Parliament
discussions
for this? And is it an option
le
for
plus
you to
évident
restrict
entre les provinces?
movement between the different provinces?
Écoutez, comme j'ai dit, on va
As I
regarder
said,
toutes les
we will
différentes
look at
mesures
every
nécessaires. On
necessary
n'écarte
measures.
rien en
We do
termes de
not move anything off the
possibilité
table in terms
d'avoir
of
besoin de
possibility of
garder
what
les
we would
Canadiens
need to
protégés.
keep Canadians safe.
En même temps, on
At the same time,
reconnaît que la loi sur
we
les mesures
acknowledge that
d'urgence, c'est
the
une loi extrême,
Emergency Measure
qui a
Act is an
de grosses
extreme
implications,
measure that has big
exigerait aussi,
implication. It
qu'un
would
passage
also ask
législatif, faudrait que ça soit fait à la
for
Chambre des communes.
legislation to
Ça
happen,
donne
and
des
it
beaux
needs to go
outils.
through the Commons. It gives big tools, but
On dispose actuellement
we
de beaucoup
currently
d'outils,
have
qui
many
nous
tools in our
permettent de
hands,
faire tout ce qu'on a
enabling
besoin
us to do everything we
S'il y
need
a
at this
d'autres
point.
étapes
If there
à faire
are
qui ne
other
pourraient
steps
être
or other
accomplies
stages
par
that couldn't be
des mesures
fulfilled
d'urgence, on va
unless we use those
absolument
emergency measures, then we will look at using them, of course.
National News. Yesterday, you mentioned $305 million that would go to Indigenous communities to help with this pandemic. You mentioned a distinctions-based approach. Could you explain what that means for First Nations, status, non-status, Inuit, and Métis Nation communities?
We are going to be sending money to Indigenous communities for them to use the way they need to keep their communities safe through COVID-19 and support access to supplies they need and get through this difficult situation. We recognize that Indigenous Canadians are faced with greater health vulnerabilities and greater economic challenges than most Canadians at the best of times. There is a need for special support and special care for Indigenous communities and Indigenous Canadians right across the country. Minister Miller of Indigenous Services will be part of the press conference today at noon to answer more questions and to talk about specifically what we're doing with Indigenous Canadians.
Thanks, Prime Minister. Nick Taylor-Lazy from Maclean's. On small businesses who've had to shut their doors already and have zero revenue coming in, say that the help that was promised yesterday, won't help them if it doesn't get there in time before they go bankrupt. What about immediate payroll support?
We have made credit a lot easier to access for businesses of all sizes right now. Those were moves we made last week to ensure that there are loans, there is bridging financing available for businesses large and small. We've also taken specific measures on payroll support for small businesses that will be available in the near future. The help for Canadians will be flowing in the coming weeks. We recognize that this is a difficult time, both in terms of getting these new programs in place quickly enough to help Canadians, and that is why I'm going to be working with the public service to ensure that all our efforts are focused on supporting Canadians through this difficult time.